In this video, be prepared to solve, to understand an incredible, I don't want to say riddle, but puzzle, something intriguing. And by God's grace, at the end of this video, you'll know why the woman of songs says that Messiah, all right, that she references here as Solomon. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. Solomon means peace. He's the groom of songs. And thus it is Jesus that she describes as an apple tree. She says that like an apple tree among the trees of the woods, so is my beloved. Remember, beloved is the name of David's meaning. And Jesus is the son of David. He is the Prince of Peace prophesied in Solomon, and Song of Songs is all about him. So why would Jesus be likened to an apple tree by the woman of songs? It is an incredible puzzle, and this is why. Let's go there. In Hebrew, the word for apple ties with fragrance, and it actually goes to ruach, breath. So she's saying the Messiah, her groom, is like breath that's being, and in that association, blown out hard, puffed. Jesus blew out his final breath, and that was what shook the earth. It brought redemption. It brought the light. The graves were opened like a hard, puffing, blowing tree, right? Jesus, while he was doing that, was on the cross. But there is more, because the word for a tree in Hebrew ties with being firm, fastening. It actually has associations with closing of eyes. And if you think about it, a tree is very firm. It is the firm affirmation. And it is so amongst the firmness of the woods. The woods, if you think about a wood, it's dense, like it's a darkening thickness, denseness when you are in the woods. And there was a darkening on the earth, a denseness, right? The thickening. So is my beloved has a root that goes to boiling. So is my beloved boiling. Jesus fulfilled what was prophesied in David's name. Therefore, he is the only one. He's the only one that actually did that. Thinking from the line of David, with the Messiah becoming, and Son of David is a messianic title. It's more than just literal saying from which line he would come. It's a prophecy, because there are many people coming from that line, but only one of them became the son of boiling. And it's her beloved. It's Jesus, who took the fiery justice and wrath like a bride, her groom, on himself. And she says, the Messiah, remember she's disclosing, we see that right in the beginning of chapter 1, she's disclosing to the woman of Jerusalem who still don't know who the Messiah is, why he is the real one. And he is the one that's like the apple tree, like the one that releases his breath in firmness, shutting of eyes in the midst of that dense, dark, thickening. Jesus on the cross is the Messiah, in the one that has released the breath, the sweet smelling apple tree. Ruach. How awesome is God. The releaser of breath of Ruach on the cross. And all while that building up process was happening, while he was hanging there in darkness, she, the death verdict that was busy there with him, was sitting there. In other words, she was lingering there. If you sit, you stay. Right? She was staying put there. She didn't depart from him. He didn't escape it. She saw it through. The justice was fulfilled completely. She sat there. She said, I sat. Right? She stayed there. And she was busy in his shade. He was in darkness, remember? And darkness ties with death. And in Hebrew, the word for shade that she's using here in prophecy, it ties with sinking down. Jesus was sinking into death. In that word, to my taste, by him being united to her now. He saves and she's fulfilled in terms of the death verdict was taken. So they help one another. Therefore they're associates, and he addresses her as his associate often in the song. She says that what is happening is sweet. In other words, it is preferred to her taste nothing. Now that association is in the Hebrew. Your taste is you're sucking in the root, and that word that's there in the deepest meaning of that word ties with strangling, almost like death, hanging. So she's saying, in his sinking down, in his into darkness, Jesus on the cross, see that in darkness, she lingers, she sits, producing his produce. Fruit is what the tree produces, his breath, right? And that is what is so sweet to her strangling. Going into what his name means, you hear, God who breathed out his breath, his salvation. You hear God busy saving, and in her you hear God's justice and wrath. So it's a conversation, very intimate conversation between God in his midst, his salvation and his justice and wrath, discussing how they bring life. And God permits us to hear this intimate conversation so that we can know and understand we live by God. And she says, he brought me to the house of wine there in the banqueting. Yes, he did. He brought her to the building up. The house starts with building up. If you think about your house that's enlarged there with your children, he brought the fiery justice to the building up of making wine, bleeding, dying, the sacrificial lamb on the cross, the building up of blood. And his flag over her, he's flaunting over the death verdict, over her, his love. He goes to the extremity of dying the most excruciating death. She's the brightest fire on the cross in order to honor it. He loves it. So the fire says of Jesus, Jesus took her to the place of making wine, and then he rules over her with this banner he flaunts, right? He proclaims love for her. Again, be prepared to hear something magnificent. All right, we're going to carry on a little bit more in this video because the one verse goes into the other. It's a conversation between them, and it can't be stopped now. She says, sustain me with cakes of raisins, refresh me with apples, for sick of love I sustain. All right, sustain, keep me going in the English, but there's more in the Hebrew. We find it means to establish and support. Support me, establish me. She said, with raisin cakes. Now, sustain me with firm, pressing, fiery. And having, if you think about how a raisin is formed, oh, God is using the literal. It's in the heat and the scorching of the sun and drying out there, Jesus bleeding, drying out, scorched on the cross in the fiery justice. It spreads her out. That in the Hebrew, the fresh word in English starts with spreading out like making a bed, a deathbed. On the cross and in the tomb, pressed together with it, it spread out, right? It took him completely, spread out and made bed. Death was there over him. And it is done with, right, refresh me, spread me out with apples. In other words, spread out the death with breath. Hard, exhaling, puffing out. Breath. Jesus blowing out his breath. And that was fulfilled on the cross. And she said, it needs to be done because she is sick of love. Amazing, the fact that this woman, God's justice, actually loves salvation. What is supposed to consume us loves our redemption. And that's why she says we mustn't frown on her. God employs her in the garden, in the defense system, like a garden keeper. Because Jesus died, it can be like it made him the lamb slain. We also see in Revelation how he comes as the lamb slain. It's because she had him. It is this establishment of hers that keeps that garden. If he wasn't the lamb slain, if he didn't see it to the full, we cannot have pardoning and thus be living. It is incredible. This is a song of your love because it's a song of peace to you, sung by the woman, the fiery justice, the unlikely one, because she is and she was sick of love for giving redemption by being united to the groom. Can you see the essence there of God who is just, but God who is grace wanting to save? And he has his justice love to bring forth salvation that only can be done in him, being true to himself and within his hands. None of us can do that. Understand the song, which is the most beautiful song in the world, that of peace, wrought by God on the cross. He embraces her. And if you think about an embrace of Jesus with this woman, there is prophecy so rich and wonderful. It changes your life from death to life. You must hear what she's saying. It's extremely intimate and wondrous what is in this verse and the directions to where his hands go. And the grace of God alone, we hear this. See you then. He's awesome.